Okay, so today, a little bit different. We're talking with Jeff Sheehan, who's an experienced customer experience consultant. He's worked across the US and is now over in Ireland, all across the customer experience space. So he's done some work with Apple and Motorola and some big sort of blue chip corporate brands. But we're now just going to have a conversation about the sort of customer experience landscape and where we're at now, because I believe you've had a lot of conversations, haven't you, with leaders across the world. So it'd be interesting to get your insight.
Thank you, Holly.
So looking at sort of where we're at with the industry today, then what do you think sort of the biggest challenges that we're facing in the customer experience space at the moment?
It's a great question, and I think if you go back to pre-virus pandemic days, when it was normal, whatever if we're going to call it that, I would say that the biggest challenge has been connecting the principles of customer experience to the business. I think there's been a misuse, for example, of NPS as the sole metric for a customer experience management program. And I think that is a misuse. And I think that NPS, for example, is merely an indicator of something, and it's very contextual, and it's going to have a different meaning in your industry and in your company. But it isn't the full deliverable of a customer experience management program. I think showing how the investments that you're making in or that you've made in people and process and technology in use in your customer experience program. I think it should be measured in terms of improving your customer intimacy, driving operational efficiencies, and being aligned with your brand promises. I find that a lot of companies forget that they have a marketing strategy that makes brand promises to their customers. So if you're telling your customers that it's easy to do business with you, then the customer experience should be relatively easy. And so aligning your customer experience program with those brand promises and your corporate strategies, so you're delivering business results, consistent delivery on a set of promises that your brand makes to your customers. I think that's really not as well understood as it could be with customer experience programs.
So do you think that given that isn't being explored enough is perhaps quite a big challenge that needs to be overcome as we come out of the other side of this then?
Well, I do. I think this pandemic period has highlighted the fact that brands do make promises. And I think you're seeing that. I'm certainly seeing it here in Ireland, where companies have completely focused their television advertising, for example, and it's a more reassuring, humane, connected message that they're sharing. And I think that the idea that the brand stands for something is being highlighted. There's a lot of humanity that's being highlighted and emphasized with businesses now, and across any industry, whether it's in medical or transportation and travel or insurance. You see a lot of that on TV, I think, certainly here in Ireland. So yeah, I think there is an opportunity for companies to really examine their mission, vision, and values, and what that means, how that's translated into the way they conduct business with their customer.
Definitely. So that's kind of gone into the opportunity that's available as a result of it as well, hasn't it? So it is the perfect time, isn't it, to look at how we're adapting. There's a lot of CEOs that are going out there and putting out public messages and really showing their human side. They're not this corporate sort of face. It is much more about, okay, well, we are actually here to help you during this time. And there's an opportunity for that to continue as well, isn't there? And to really reinforce the message.
There is, in fact, it'll be interesting to see how expectations with customers have shifted during this period and what the new normal, in quotes, is going to look like. So, for example, there's a lot of companies with, say, banks extending the payment terms, allowing people to have more time to pay on loans, for example, because they've been out of work, or just because it's the right thing to do as a bank. Airlines who are offering refunds and vouchers and sort of managing the business imperatives that they are experiencing with all the cancellations, with the fact that, you know, there's some customer experience realities they have to contend with. And then, you know, how customers are interacting with brands and what they should expect. I think, you know, home delivery is an area where it's exploded because you can't go out, so it has to come to you. And some companies are really doing a great job with that, and they may not have even had home delivery before this. So it's those kind of things I think that we won't know it for some time, but I think people's customers' expectations, whether it's consumers or other businesses, are shifting slightly. It'll be interesting to see how much.
It'd be interesting also to see, like you touched on, the sort of home delivery side and new revenue opportunity for organisations to really focus on that sort of customer experience space. Will the expectation of the customer still be that they want those conveniences, if you like? Because I don't think, with the current situation, I don't think it's just going to happen overnight that suddenly people aren't worried about this anymore. So will there be a period where that is going to have to sort of continue, or other brands can get involved in making that an extension of their sort of customer experience, perhaps?
Right. I think, you know, that's one side of the equation. I think another side of the equation is businesses will examine their own P&L and see that maybe home delivery is a better way. Maybe it's a more profitable way to conduct business, you know, where you're actually meeting people where they are and delivering, you know, what they've asked for with speed, and, you know, whatever those things are that are important to the business. But I think we're going to see businesses really examine how they conduct business, and as I said, some companies here in Ireland just there's a retailer that just had brick and mortar stores, and they quickly revamped their online business, and that has gone through the roof. I mean, they've done an incredible amount of online business. I don't think they're going to take that back when this is over. I think they've learned that that's a really good way to conduct business profitably for them, and I'd be surprised if it didn't just keep growing.
It'll be interesting to see if it impacts the high street and things as well. Furthermore, I think, although I am missing going and doing a little bit of mooching myself, but so looking at sort of the wider impact on the customer experience market, then how do you think that this will affect things sort of longer term as well?
Wow. I think from a company, you know, a company perspective, a business perspective, there's going to be, in terms of customer experience programs, I hope there's a more of a focus on two things. One is the brand promises the company's making that are setting expectations with their customer, becoming much more sensitive to our mission, vision, values, what we stand for, what do we tell people that lets them expect something from us? What is it they expect? Do they expect trust? Do they expect speed? Do they expect it to be easy? And really sort of understand what those promises are that they're communicating, and that are essentially expectations. And then I think there's this measurement of sentiment, and there's plenty of technology tools that can measure sentiment, from voice and messages and all kinds of, however customers are communicating, there's tools that can measure sentiment. And I think there's a sensitivity now to that maybe there wasn't as much sensitivity to it before. And I think people are realizing, companies are realizing, sensitivity to feelings and sentiments of their customers is, and responding to that is very, very important. And customers are making, you know, on the spot decisions because they feel heard or they feel ignored. So we'll see that, I think, in the airlines. You know, some airlines want to refund, some airlines don't want to refund, and I think you're going to see a huge amount of activity in the airlines in Europe, for example, just over that treatment of customers.
I think people will certainly vote with their feet, won't they, once all of this is over, and with the brands that have done well out of making sure that they're looking after their customers, and then the others that have perhaps Slipped up a little is probably the nicest way to put it.
Yeah, well, I love that expression, vote with your feet. And I think that's exactly what will happen. And, in fairness to companies, it's a tough business environment. It's
Mm.
tough. It's tough to be told you have to ground your whole fleet, and you have to, by European law, you have EU law, you have to refund. It's tough to have a huge a business that's driven by with so much capital expense and so many people so in fairness, it is not an easy place for an airline in this example to be in, but the expectations have been set. So how people feel treated it now will definitely translate into the future business.
100%. And I know it's a very hypothetical situation, but if there was something that could be changed across the customer experience space, in your opinion, and there wasn't a restriction of money and there weren't barriers of having to get things signed off by levels above, what would you do to sort of change something that would benefit the good of customer experience?
That's a great question. That's a big question. I think it would be to understand that the customer experience strategy does not have to displace any other strategy, but that a company strategy, a marketing or brand strategy that should, and the customer experience strategy should all align. So, for example, a company strategy generally is expressed in financials. And if it's a public company, there's generally periods of time expressed in quarters of a fiscal year, that kind of thing. And a marketing strategy generally lays out brand promises. It defines what the brand is and what it stands for, and it begins to set expectations for the customer. Like I mentioned before, are we trustworthy? Are we efficient? Are we, a luxury? Those kinds of expectations that translate into other expectations. So if I'm a luxury, then it shouldn't break, but it broke. So is it easy to get it fixed? Is those kind of things? So I really think that it's time to examine the customer experience strategy's alignment with the brand strategy, with the corporate strategy, and make sure that the customer experience operation is making sure that the company is delivering on those expectations, both financially as expressed in the company strategy, and then with the customer's expectations as expressed in the brand. I think if you see it all as working together, like the pistons in your engine in your car, you have you can harmonize CX into a business and really get the results that you're looking for. If you think that they're mutually exclusive and not interdependent, then that's where you're going to have a lot of dysfunction in your customer experience program. And we see that. We see initiatives that get funded, but they don't yield the results because the results were different from what people in the business were looking for. You have a challenge expressing return on investment after spending a lot of money on some tools, for example, because the understanding of how to do that financial expression of ROI is unclear, or it wasn't built into the plan. Those kind of things. So CX programs could vastly improve, I think, if you just start at the beginning and harmonize those strategies of company and brand with CX, and just build a program that delivers on those things. I don't mean to oversimplify it. Everything's easier said than done, but I think to answer your question, that's a big challenge. And I think if you sort that out, a lot of good stuff flows out of that. Downstream.
100%. And I think it's just making sure that when those experience strategies are laid out, that they are their own entity. Like you say, they're not being mixed with other things, that it is important in its own entity, because customers essentially are your revenue stream, aren't they, regardless of whatever happens. And it does take time to make huge changes, so the return on investment isn't always impacted immediately, is it?
No, it isn't. And I would say, and I haven't heard too many people say it, what I'm about to share with you, that the business of customer experience is to enable business. You want to take care of a customer so they buy from you. You want to take care of them so that they buy from you again. And you also want the customer that bought from you and bought from you again to recommend somebody else buy from you. So, and you do that with the store, you do that with the online web presence, you do that with the support and service when something isn't going right. You do that with all kinds of touch points with customers so it's not an easy thing to do, but you absolutely need to align those strategies so that the things you do are consistent with who you say you are and what you stand for and the financials you're looking for.
100%. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how businesses sort of adopt looking at their sort of customer experience strategy moving forwards as well. But without a crystal ball, we don't know what the businesses will do. So it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about customer experience that I really love. I love the dynamics of it because obviously you've got a company that's built for a purpose. You've got competition, but you also have that customer who can be very fickle. And I think this particularly unique period of time that we're going through now is going to have an impact on the customer, whether it's a business to business kind of environment or a business to consumer environment. And companies are going to have to adapt, as they always have had to adapt. So it'll be very interesting over the next few years to see how that adaptation works out.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation about this. I know that it's something that you yourself are extremely passionate about, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the changes that happen moving forwards.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate the time, Holly, that you made for this conversation. And yeah, it is something I like to talk about. So I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep with my comments, but thank you so much for the time.
No worries. Thank you.